Hey guys, welcome to Built in America. I'm Jeff Vreeland. This show is about the men and women who are actually building businesses in America today, not chasing profits, but trying to do it with conviction, integrity, and responsibility. Each episode, I sit down with founders, operators, leaders who believe business is more than transaction. It's influence, it's stewardship, and it's one of the most powerful way values show up in real life. We're here to talk about the marketplace, what's changing, what's working, what it really takes to serve customers who care about what they buy and who they buy it from. These are honest conversations with people doing the work, learning in real time how to build, lead, grow in a very complicated world. This is Built in America. Today, I've got Chris Widener. He's the founder of Revival 250, among many things, including New York Times bestseller, Wall Street bestselling author, a speaker, and a coach. And his work sits right at the intersection of building a business and staying grounding in his values. We're going to talk about what he's building on this episode of Built in America. Chris, thanks so much for being here, buddy. I really do appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about Revival 250. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, I started out my career as a pastor,
Yeah.
but for the entrepreneurs out there, I was an entrepreneurial pastor. I was what they call a church planter, which means you go to a town where there is no church and you start one. And so I've always had entrepreneurism in my blood from the time I was a kid, making money. Started out by buying and selling tickets at sporting events in Seattle. So I've always been, entrepreneurial in that way. Spent my career in the motivational speaking world and built a number of businesses. And a couple of years ago, I went back into ministry, started a 501c3. I will be 60 in just a couple of months, and I've kind of had earned all the accolades that I could get in the speaking and author world, and decided it was time to go back and help people spiritually. So started a thing called Revival 250. This is obviously America's 250th anniversary. And I thought we need to have a big revival meeting. So we're going to have 11,600 people live in Jacksonville, Florida. And then we're going to live stream through the pray.com app, which has 26 million downloads. And then we're going to live stream to homes, churches, colleges, prisons, and military bases. So big thing coming up May 3rd.
That's awesome.
And people can find out more at revival250.com.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited for it. May 3rd, got to tune in for it. So let's jump into the questions. How does your business help people live out their values when they spend their money?
Well, it's interesting. Jesus talked more about money than any other topic.
Yes, sir,
And
he
I
did.
think one of the reasons why he did was because he understands what a powerful pull money can be. And so when we experience our spiritual values and then we go out into the marketplace, oftentimes the marketplace values are not the same as our spiritual values. So what we really try to do is to help people understand how their spiritual values can affect their marketplace values, how they can live out their spiritual values in the marketplace, and understanding money's proper role. Money is just a tool, and it's a good tool, but it can also be a bad tool. I always liken it to a hammer. You can take a hammer and you can build homes for Habitat for Humanity, or you can take a hammer and hit somebody with it and do a lot of physical damage to them. So the tool, then, you have to understand that money should be a tool, not the goal. And when people take their spiritual values into the marketplace, understanding that money is a tool for good, it completely opens up the way that they will use, spend, invest, save their money. So it's very important for us to bring some congruity between our marketplace values and our spiritual values.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So go on to the second question. What does building and growing your business here in America mean to you personally?
Well, America is certainly not without its faults. I think we can all say that. We've
I agree.
had a storied history. We've had some terrible times in our history. But in the grand scheme of things, America has always been what Ronald Reagan called the light, the city on the hill. And in spite of our failings, we have done a lot to help the world. And so here we are in our 250th anniversary. And in my opinion, America's hurting. There's some things where we look at it and we go, oh no, we're doing great. But on the other hand, 15 years ago, we were $10 trillion in debt. Now we're pushing $40 trillion in debt. And that's a problem. We are more divided than we ever have been before. And it's not just divisiveness like, I disagree with you, that kind of thing. It's like, I'm the moral person, you're the evil person. And I see a lot of cracks in the integrity of America today? And I believe that the answer is to get back to those values that shaped America. At the beginning of America, we had slavery. But as people looked at their Christian values over the course of years and years, decades and decades, they said, you know what, this isn't right. We need to abolish slavery. And eventually we did. And it was those Christian values, I believe, the Judeo-Christian values. It's not just Christians that hold these values. But eventually, when your values become so strong, you recognize the problems that you have and you make the correction of those problems. And that's really what we're looking forward to now, is looking at the issues that we're experiencing in America and saying, how do we help these spiritual values help us overcome those problems that we're experiencing in America?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said. So let's move on to the third question. How have you seen your customers change in the last few years, especially conservative or faith-minded customers?
Well, I think what they have seen is they've started seeing these problems.
Yes, they have.
They've been told by politicians for decades and decades, we're going to do this and we're going to save America. Well, it hasn't happened. And, in the run up to the last election, I heard both sides saying the same thing. You need to elect our person to save America. And I just do not believe that a politician is going to save America. I believe that different politicians can have different effects. And I think that some politicians have a good effect and some politicians have a bad effect on America. But I don't believe that a man or a woman, for that matter, is going to save America. It's going to be a return to our roots. And I think what we've seen is we've seen all the dangerous things happening in America. We've seen the problems. We've seen the financial problems. We've seen the division. And people have said, we're not going to keep trusting in a person. We need to get back to the roots of our spiritual roots. And that comes through revival. Revival simply means to come to life again. So what it means is we need to see those spiritual values that have guided America for 250 years to be rerouted into the fabric of America, so we can get rid of those problems and we can actually save America.
Yeah, that's so well said. I totally agree with you. Getting back to the core values of who we are as a nation is going to be important. So segues great into the next question. What values guide the way you lead your team and serve your customers at Revival 250?
Well, there's a Bible verse that says that we should walk worthy of the calling that we've received. And we have received a calling, and it's a calling to be ambassadors for the gospel. It's a calling that says that we should love one another, forgive one another, bear with one another, challenge one another, encourage one another. If you ever want to do an interesting study of the Bible, you can go to ChatGPT, or if you know your Bible well enough to go through it, just search the term one another and look at what the Bible tells us how we should act with one another. And frankly, if we just did the one another's, we would see tremendous things happening. And so I try to live a walk that's worthy of that calling by living out the fruit of the Spirit, for example. I wrote a book here about a year ago called Praying Through the Fruits of the Spirit. Well, the fruit of the Spirit in the Bible is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. Tell me, if we saw all those things, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, if we saw those being played out in people's lives, wouldn't America be a better place? So
absolutely,
even people
it would.
Who say, I don't know that I believe in the Bible, or I don't know that I believe in Jesus, or whatever, no problem. I mean, everybody has to make their own decisions about their faith. But let's look at the values and say, okay, so you don't believe that, but do you believe in love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, etc.? It was interesting. I saw one of the most famous atheists in the world. He's from England. He came out and he said, I'm not a Christian, I'm an atheist, but I love Christian culture. I thought that was so fascinating. He was basically saying, look, I don't believe it. I'm an atheist. I don't believe there's a God. But when you look at what a Christian culture is, I really kind of like that. And that Christian culture is one that's governed by those kinds of things that we've been talking about, the fruit of the Spirit.
Absolutely.
And those kinds of things. So whether you believe it or you don't, I think we can all agree that those are good values to hold.
Yep. And the transformation that we would see if everyone Christian or not, was living out those values would be,
Yeah.
I mean, it would change the world for sure.
Yeah,
Change the world.
imagine a Christian and an atheist, a Republican, a Democrat,
Yep.
you know, whatever, a carnivore and a vegetarian. Imagine if they approached their relationship
All the
with
same way.
love.
Yep. That's right.
With
That's right.
love. You know what?
All right.
I disagree with you, but I'm going to love you.
That's right. That's right. That's a radical idea that I'd love to see happen too. All right. Last question. What's one piece of advice you'd give to other business owners trying to reach value-driven Americans?
Be a voice, not an echo. Don't
Love
just regurgitate other things from other people. You have to find your own transformational, authentic self. You need to not be the second best McDonald's or the second best mattress firm or the second best accounting firm or whatever your business is. You need to be yourself. And I learned this working with Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn. Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn were mentors of mine, both legends in the speaking world, and yet they were so completely different. They reached the highest levels of the same industry, but they were so different. And when I worked with both those guys, you know, as a young man, you go, oh, I want to be like Zig, or I want to be like Jim, or I want to be like John Maxwell, who I also worked with. But what really spoke to my heart was, no, don't be a second-rate Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, or John Maxwell. Be the best Chris Widener that you can be. And so that's my challenge to business people is you get to live your own life. You get to build your own business. Build it on your values. Build it on your dreams. Build it on your vision, not trying to be a replica of somebody else.
That's great. That's great. I love it. I love it. All right, we're going to wrap up here, but really quickly, Chris, where can people find out more about you and your business?
Yeah, they can find me at chriswidener.com. They can find me at revival250.com. Lots of places. Just Google my name and you'll find all sorts of things about me.
And we'll have
None of which are bad.
And we'll have it in the description here under the YouTube video as well. So, Chris, thanks so much. We appreciate it. That's a wrap for today's episode of Built in America. I hope today's conversation encouraged you, reminded you that building a business in this country is more than about profits. It's about values, people, and the long-term impact that you're doing. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you also subscribe to our weekly Liberty Spenders podcast, where we go deeper into Americans that are choosing to live out their values with where and how they spend their money. If you're a business owner, a leader, or a brand that wants better understanding and to serve value-driven Americans, I'd love for you to check out what we're building at libertyspenders.com. Finally, if you want to be a guest on this great show, head over to builtinamericapodcast.com. You can learn how to learn more about the show, how to apply. But thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting American-built businesses, and we'll see you next time on Built in America.